I haven't taken a deep breath in years, dude. All right, here we go. Episode 4 of our journey. Thank you guys for joining us. And today I'm with my brother, my best friend, a guy that I love, Austyn Carta-Samuels. How we doing?
We're doing great. Why don't you tell them what we're here to talk about in episode 4?
All right, I'm not great with the intro, so I'm still getting used to this. Usually Austyn does this, but this is my assignment today. So today we are going to dive into what a quarterback looks like in 2024, and today we're going to speak a little bit more about the physical side and the athletic side of things. We'll get into the mental and the spiritual side of things. We kind of already have tapped into it, but we'll get into it a little bit more as this goes on. And Aust, I mean, you played even in 10 years ago. You've seen so much change, but over the last few years, and I guess the last few decades, what have you really seen change in football offensively and in the quarterback position? And you've seen it all. So what do you think has changed the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to look at it is just to look at the evolution of offensive football. So when we're talking about, let's say we're in 2024. So let's say back in 2000, 2005, something like that, which was a little bit before I was playing collegiate football. It's like, what did the ideal quarterback look like? He looked 6'4", 6'5". He looked 30. And when you looked at offensive football and what that looked like, it was really 8-man boxes offensively, 9-man boxes. So we were in heavy sets, heavy personnel, 2 receivers out there, and we're under center. And like when you think about what's under center, it's like, well, that means we're dropping and ejecting from the line of scrimmage and taking these big, heavy drops. We have 16-yard comebacks on the outside and basic routes by the tight end at 12 to 15 yards down the middle of the field. But the game was play action. The game was like heavy boxes and then making plays on the perimeter opportunistically off play action and some of those things. So the ideal has just completely shifted. And I think, I'm a great example of just somebody who in high school, I was in the wing tee offense and stampede stuff. And then I got to college and it was like, I get to, let's use Vanderbilt as the example. Is like I get there and we're an under center pro style offense. And then basically Coach Franklin watched college football, obviously, and paid attention to some things that were going on in spread sets. And he was like, dude, in order to be good this year, guys, we're going to have to incorporate RPO and we're going to have to do some things out of gun. And I'll never forget 3-by-1 set and we're running inside zone to the left. And I'm reading the middle linebacker, and our third receiver in 10 personnel, the Y, one of our best receivers, has a 5-yard hitch. And I'm supposed to replace the mic if the mic takes the cheese. And it's I remember the action of that throw was I'm now riding inside zone, not moving my feet, and just throwing the ball. And everything that I had ever been taught about generating linear momentum and, getting my elbow up and, having the ball on the shelf and all these things. If I did any of those things, I would not have been able to execute this new play that I was being asked to do. And then we look at what's expanded outside of that. It's like, guys, how much perimeter screen do we see now? All of these different things where it's about getting the ball out quickly. Try to tell John Elway or Joe Montana to get the ball out quickly. They could have done it. I'll just be candid, guys. It would have looked like shit, all right? It would have looked like shit. So,
if John Elway ever tunes into this podcast, gets pissed off, we've done something right. So I'm cool with that.
Dude, John Elway is the man. First of all, he's the man, all right? And my backup quarterback in high school was John Elway's nephew. And I met that guy. He's incredible. And, that helicopter dive that he did in the playoffs, dude, it's like, John, you're the freaking man. But that said, I think it's so cool to see how the positions evolved because, Mitch, you think of it, and I'd love for you to answer this, is again, back to that 6'4", 6'5", stocky quarterback. And it's now we have multiple guys around college football that are under 6 foot. We have multiple guys in the NFL that are 6 foot, maybe. It says that they are in their bio, but they're not really. I'm a 6 foot quarterback. You're right there with me. So what are you seeing? If we're going to call me the old man and call me old school, then let's call you the young man and new school. What do you see? What do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's just a call for athletic quarterbacks and something we always talk about. And is just being a distributor of the football, being a point guard. And even when I was getting recruited, I was a 2020 high school grad. There were still coaches that told me I was too short. And dude, this is when Kyler's winning the Heisman, Baker's winning the Heisman, and I'm like, I'm not running a 4.3 like Kyler, but I'm moving like Baker can. You know, Baker's a great athlete, but and it was just blew my mind that there were still coaches out there that said I was too short to play at their level. And I never forget one school was like, hey man, if you were 6'4", we'd offer you, but we only take one kid under 6'1" in our room at one time. We already have one kid who's under 6'1", and I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But go ahead. But yeah, just I think it's a call for athletic quarterbacks with the change in offensive football. Just being able to just be an athlete and be a distributor. And Austyn, I want to ask you, you know, when you were playing in college and you kind of saw that transition start to happen, were there a lot of guys in college that you watched, you know, that were playing at your time that you thought were kind of the pioneers for that? You know, I think of a guy like Pat White, you know, way before that. But guys, when you were playing, who were some guys like that?
I mean, you just stole it out of my mouth. Like Pat White was one of them for sure. Alex Smith, I think, was another one for sure. Tim Tebow, I mean, he threw like shit, but like he was one as well. RG3 did a lot of things differently than things had been done in the past. So I think there were a lot of guys, you know, that really did look different and kind of broke the mold per se. I mean, this guy is a idiot. His computer just died again. That's the third time in these episodes that his computer's died. So I feel like we just abort on Mitch Griffis and we go to me, which is when we talk about this position. Sorry for all the language right there. Okay, when we talk about this position, guys, like to me, when we talk athleticism, when we talk versatility, like what we're talking about is we're talking about a quarterback being able to beat you the most number of ways. The most number of ways. So when I look at a Patrick Mahomes against a Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl, I put out this tweet and like a lot of people flamed me for it, but it's like, dude, I love Brock Purdy. Like so tenacious, fighter, his faith is so impressive, all these things. But like, how many ways can Brock Purdy beat you? How many ways can Patrick Mahomes beat you? Kyle Shanahan is going to have to call the perfect game, and their defense is going to have to play the perfect game for in the fourth quarter in a one-score game, when the Niners have to stop Mahomes 4 times, or when the Chiefs have to stop Purdy 4 times. We all know how that's going to go. Because one guy can beat you a multitude of different ways, and the other guy can't. So we talk about like the way that we train or the way that we see this position. We see this position under that context. To be able to beat your opponent in the most number of ways. And I think that this is something that like we all have access to now with YouTube and with all these other resources in today's world to see the evolution of the position and see where we are now. I was taught that the ball was supposed to be held up here. Tell me how many NFL guys these days hold the ball up here. I was told to stride and step to my target. Go look on Instagram. Go look at the guys being coached and go look at the best doing this across the world. They don't create linear momentum. They're rotational throwers. It's completely shifted. It's completely evolved. It's completely changed. Right? Get your elbow up. Horizontal L, vertical L. Well, back in the day, the horizontal L and the vertical L were in those 90-degree positions. Now today, when you study Aaron Rodgers, when you study a lot of these guys, the 90 happens here, and then it happens here. It doesn't happen here and here. And then you see guys that get trapped in the here and here. Justin Fields, I think, is a good example of somebody who's been told to get the ball or get his elbow to 90 and 90, L and L. And what he does is because he's emphasizing that, you end up seeing this elbow get over his shoulder, which then has to create a loop underneath it to come back around the ball. So again, as we look at the position, to me, it's an evolution of being able to beat an opponent in the most number of ways. And that's why the shift to athletic has happened. You have Nick Saban on TV saying Bryce Young's a point guard. His position has evolved into being a point guard. What's a point guard do? Go watch LaMelo Ball highlights. I don't care what you think of the guy. Go watch his highlights. There is no way to do it. He's doing it a million different ways. And that's why I tell young quarterbacks, families, like the best thing you could do for yourself is just play multiple sports. From a neuroplasticity standpoint, staying open to all the different body movements, being able to understand and master our own body through all of these different situations. Because every throw is unique to itself, every single one. If I throw a 3-step drop, crossover 3, on a 10-yard stop to my Z, versus when we flip the set and we have our Y outside and it's a true tight end, the drop is different, the throw is different. Yeah, it's the same route. Yeah, it's the same crossover 3, but it's different. Something that I think is massively under-discussed is the line of scrimmage is being pushed back into us. So quarterbacks that have to finish going forward are the ones that get their front leg annihilated. And oftentimes when you watch, quarterbacks don't finish coming forward. Many of them finish going backwards. Something I was laughing at talking with my brother the other day was I was laughing at the fact that like NCAA, the new video game, watch the quarterbacks on the game. These are unobjective writers or programmers that are just watching what they see in college football, and then they're having the little guys on the screen be able to do those things. Watch how many quarterbacks fade off of their throws. Throw the ball while actually repelling away from pressure that's in their face. Yet up until this point, nothing's ever been taught that way. So I think where we go next is what created this massive movement besides the evolution of offensive football. To me, the answer is the Green Bay Packers. You look at Brett Favre. Brett Favre was one of the first people to fade away. Brett Favre was one of the first people that wasn't very intentional with his front shoulder. Brett Favre was labeled a gunslinger, and I have a 10-minute video of Brett Favre throwing slants while fading backwards as he throws those slants. So then Aaron Rodgers comes into the Green Bay Packers. And guys, if there is somebody who has evolved this position physically more than anybody in the history of our game, it is Aaron Rodgers. Well, how was he able to do that? Because he got drafted by the Green Bay Packers. He had to sit for probably 4 more years than he wished he did. But there was a point there, and he's talked about it, he's discussed it, where he was watching Brett, and he was realizing that the rules he had been taught by Jeff Tedford were not being upheld by one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So as he's watching Brett Favre, he's like, I'm gonna play with that. So when I talk about Aaron Rodgers, I talk about just a much cleaner, much more efficient, much more polished version of Brett Favre. Then Tom Brady, who's been interviewed, like he looks noticeably different as a thrower with the New England Patriots versus when he became a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when he was asked what the change was, he said, watched a lot of Aaron Rodgers and realized that I didn't need to do some of the things that I was doing before. Okay, so now we go big picture. So you have a guy like Josh Allen who is at Wyoming, who's completely shifted how he throws. And again, I think it's because Aaron Rodgers laid out the blueprint. We can all watch that on YouTube. We can all study that, much like my brother and I have. It's why my brother created what he created, was off of studying the best, because Aaron Rodgers is by far the most polished and consistent passer in the NFL. And so you have this wave of people who are now studying a better way to do it in today's game and evolving, right? Then you go to Jordan Love. Who's the next one? The one who sat under Aaron. You look at some of the things that Jordan Love's doing, and this is like why we talk about, sitting out at times being a blessing. It's like, look at Dak Prescott, who, if anything, is the same player he was in college physically. And if you're asking me 100% candidly, I think he's regressed in some ways physically as far as how he throws the football compared to a Jordan Love. Ooh, that is the last thing I'm worried about with Jordan Love. The things he's doing with the football and the way he's able to distribute the ball from different angles and different platforms and all of these things, he is the new wave of the way this game is trending. Then you look at like this last year's draft, and you look at Jaden Daniels, and it's like, look at that athlete. I know he's tall, but look at that athlete. Look at the way he throws the ball. Look at the way he does things. Very different than years past. Bo Nix, very different than years past. Very versatile athletes that don't do it the same way every single time. Caleb Williams, obviously, completely that way. So we've seen the game evolve. We've seen the game transition. And to me, what makes guys great in 2024 is being able to beat you the most number of ways physically. And that comes down to trust. So with Locked In QB and all the college guys that we train, all the high school guys that we train, it's like when you come watch our guys throw, it's because we're teaching them to do everything from everywhere, and our cues and our rules and the things we think about from a physical performance standpoint, like all of them are subject to being able to adapt based on the throw. We choose to coach lesser detail to emphasize more feeling. I want you guys to feel how it's supposed to feel. Once we anchor in a feeling, once we understand how to manipulate our body angles and how to create these types of throws, we now can do it without over-repping every single throw. Back in the day when I played in an under-center offense, it was very simple. Take your drop, throw the route on time. That's it. Now, how many plays in an NFL or college football game look like they happen perfectly on script, perfectly on schedule, and the way that they did even 5 years ago? Very, very rare. Hell, the offense we ran at Missouri with Josh Heupel and Drew Lock and like what we were doing up there, we were literally running choice routes where the receiver made the decision at 8 to 10 yards of depth on whether he wanted to run a stop, a bang post, a deep post, or a go. I have to sit there in base and wait to watch what decision my receiver makes and react. Think about where my feet have to be. Alignment, good luck. You're throwing to a stop, a go, a bang post, and a deep post. How the hell are you supposed to be aligned to all four of those balls at one time? So what's happened is now there's being a lot more emphasis placed on overall athleticism and the ability to beat you the most number of ways. And I think that this one, even though my boy Mitch bailed on me, is a really, really good episode for you guys to drop questions for us, because I want to back it up with video for you guys. That's the thing. Like, we don't run from the tape, dude. Like, I'm not out here just to, spread all these wild things about playing loose. Like, again, there's still a deep understanding of our body. What generates power? It's our back leg. It's our back leg. Well, how? I pushed a lot of the time when I was younger. Everything comes through the turn. That's how we control our power. We want to keep as much of our weight back as possible. These are things that if they were said 10 years ago, I would sound like the biggest lunatic of all time. Now you could just watch it on tape. So my point being is I think that this is a great episode for you guys to drop comments, asking questions. It allows us to come back with other episodes where we show you video content that supports exactly what we're saying. But as far as the evolution of the quarterback position, you've gone from tall, gigantic, 7-step drops, 5-step drops, hard play action, to now, in Nick Saban's words, point guards, distributors of the football. And that is going to mean more athleticism. That's going to mean also being able to beat you with your legs a little bit. And it's going to be being able to throw the ball from as many different places and platforms as possible. Because ultimately, when we go quick game, if I trust the rules of old, alignment, 90, get the ball out on the perimeter, that ball is going to hit my receiver's hands at least 0.3 seconds later than it would if I just caught the ball like a shortstop and just threw the ball out to him. That time matters. Time matters. Which means, is 90 really the rule? Can't be. And then that's where I fight my big fight, where it's like everything evolves, right? Everything evolves. Guys, there was a time 20 years ago where people didn't have cell phones. People didn't have internet. Barely. It was like that call-in dial tone. Now, every single kid that's friggin' 10 years old has an entertainment device in his hand, a TV in his hand, a video game thing in his hand. Everything evolves. Imagine if we still operated in this world like we didn't have phones and didn't have electronics while they're all over the place. Look at the game we're playing in. We're in shotgun. Why would anyone take a depth drop in shotgun? When if the defensive end turns the corner, even on a well-blocked play by the offensive tackle, he's going to turn the corner and kill you at 7.5 yards of depth. Your toes are at 5. Why the hell would you ever try to get depth on a drop and gun? The eye of the hurricane is 4.5 to 6.5. Yet we have a lot of coaches and a lot of players that are still reaching in their drops. Makes no sense. Today's game, balance, playing point guard, and it's evidenced through the tape that you watch and the way the positions evolved. So I'd love for you guys to drop any questions in here, man, so that we can help you and address specific needs. But other than that, besides my guy Balin, dude, I think this is a great episode for you guys to watch and a great episode for you guys to get a full understanding of where this all started, and then to reach out to us, reach out to Locked In QB and have us talk to you about it, because these are things we love talking to you guys about. And ultimately, that's where freedom is letting go of some of these rules and learning the true cues and the true anchors that allow us to understand how to manipulate our bodies and trust feeling, because that's where the position's transitioned into. Like, subscribe, drop any questions in the comments. I appreciate you guys, man. That's quarterback in today's world.